You're listening to Investify, preaching financial independence and assisting investors to achieve a more flexible and free lifestyle through smart financial planning and real estate investing. If leaving the corporate world and jumping into this thriving industry is what you desire, tune in and listen to stories of like-minded individuals who made the leap to financial independence. Equip yourself with the right tips and tricks to start your real estate journey, making active or passive ventures that are highly profitable and rewarding. Here are your hosts, Curelop and Zeona McIntyre.
Everybody, you are listening to Investify. My name is Curelop, aka the Fi Guy, and I'm here with my co-host Zeona McIntyre, aka Z Money. Z, how you doing today?
Dude, I am so good. We have a super amazing guest today, so I'm excited about that. But also, in like 2 hours, I'm potentially going on a helicopter tour. So I'm, here in Maui, and I've got a friend that works at the helicopter place, and she's like, "Well, we could probably get you on standby. Let's see." So it's kind of fun to know that I have that today.
We did that helicopter tour. We did a helicopter tour in Maui when we were there, and it was absolutely amazing.
So good.
We went to is it not Molokai or Lanai or one of those?
Molokai.
Oh my God, it was just unreal. Grace, I think her background on her phone is a picture she took from that helicopter ride. So not to hype it up too much, but it was something else for sure.
Oh, it's stunning. And I think like doing things like this, like I'm not that into spending money, but I think certain experiences do stretch your mind. It's like this is kind of a mindset thing. And actually, Ashley, our guest today, is going to talk about an exercise where she was writing these really big checks and signing them for her boss. And that was kind of this like mindset exercise. So there are just certain things that you can do that kind of blow it open. And you're like, whoa, there's so much more. So
yeah, I love those mindset exercises. And yeah, I know you're in Hawaii. Neither of us are home right now because you're in Hawaii.
Yep.
I just arrived in Seattle for the Phi Team's inaugural meetup because the Phi Team is launching in Seattle. So if you are in Seattle, and we are not leaving Denver, right? We're still in Denver. So if you're in Denver or you're in Seattle, definitely let us know. And you're looking for an investor-friendly realtor, someone to help you and kind of guide and mentor you through that whole process of your house hack or of your investment journey. Definitely come hit us up. We're so happy to help, and we just love adding people to the community and spreading this word of financial independence all the way around the country. So, and Ashley is on the other side of the country. Right? We're like on all parts of the country right now. We've got Hawaii, we've got West Coast, and we've got East Coast with Ashley. And so let's bring her on.
Okay,
Ashley Kehr, welcome to the show. How you doing today?
Very good. I'm coming to you guys live from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho at a self-storage conference today.
I am so mad at you, Ashley, because we literally just left Coeur d'Alene last night for Seattle and we didn't get to see each other. So people don't visit Coeur d'Alene that often.
I was in contact with your wife, and she made sure to let me know when you had already left the state to text and say that I had arrived.
Very smart, very smart. Yeah, you guys did it well. So Ashley, I'm super excited to have you on. For those that don't know, you're the host of the BiggerPockets Rookie Podcast, and I'm super excited to get into your story. But like any good story, let's start at the beginning as to where you first heard about financial independence.
So the first place that I really heard about it was on Instagram, in Dave Ramsey, really. Yeah. So just following accounts that were about paying off debt and, people who were Dave Ramsey fangirls and stuff. So I read the book, Money Makeover. I think that's what it's called now, the Dave Ramsey one. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to pay off my debt. I had student loans. We had farm equipment. We own a farm equipment to pay off both of our vehicles, and then a line of credit from building our house. So this was about the end of 2016, 2017, where I started digging into this, and I built out my Excel spreadsheet with, the loans that I had, the debt payments, and like every week I would sit down and be like, okay, if I put this much towards this debt, and I did the snowball effect to kind of pay that off. And And that's really where it started. I had never really budgeted or really cared about paying off loans. I was always very adamant, like never have credit card debt, like pay your credit cards. My parents were really strict about that. But that's kind of when it started, end of 2016, 2017.
I just want to say, like, wow, I can't believe it was that short of a time frame, you know? Like, I mean, it seems like with what you have going, and I don't even know too much about your story, so I'm excited to hear everything, but it's like, you'd think that that took decades, right? So I just love that people can see, like, wow, she had a farm and equipment, which we never hear about either, and a lot of debt. And then now you've got just a whole empire and a big business. So yeah, let's hear more about it. But I just want to say kudos. That's amazing.
Thanks. And I had actually started investing in real estate before I even learned about financial independence. I worked for another investor as a property manager. I'm like, okay, if he can buy these properties, so can I. And I partnered with his son. And so by 2016, 2017, I had several rental properties already. And so I started using the cash flow from those properties to help pay off my debt. And that's kind of how I accelerated. And I think there's a big kind of opinion from a lot of people as to whether you pay off debt first or you start investing first. And in my case, it actually worked out to start investing and then use that cash flow. But I was also buying no money down deals. I was using a money partner. So that really helped with that situation. And then I was the property manager. So I put a lot of time into the properties.
So by the time 2016-17 rolled around, how many properties did you actually have?
I believe I had 5 duplexes then. Yeah.
Okay, 5 duplexes. And so were you analyzing these deals? Were you buying these intentionally? Because this must have been before you heard about BiggerPockets, before you heard about all that stuff.
Yeah, BiggerPockets I found out about in 2017. And after just diving into the forums, learning about creative financing, all these different things, I actually tripled my portfolio in a year and a half right after finding BiggerPockets. So I went from like 5 to 15 units after just realizing there's different ways to do it than how I was doing it. And that really helped me accelerate. And then plus I had paid off my debt. So I had more money that had been going to monthly payments too to start investing.
Okay, so we're going to do things a little differently here because you're one of the atypical people that started investing in real estate before they even found out about financial independence. So let's take it back to whenever that first deal was, because we want to get into that. The for real deal. Which is the first deal that you do as a real estate investor. And
I just left you alone there.
Yeah, Z's on like Hawaii time.
I'm still sleeping.
Yeah, Z's on Hawaii time. She's like just 3 hours behind. But yeah, my bad. But let's get into that one and just kind of like, how you found it, how you financed it, all that good stuff.
Okay, so I worked for this investor who, when he would purchase properties, he would actually go and refinance one property and then use that money to buy another business or buy another property. So I always saw offers in cash. So I never saw him like going into a bank and saying, I want to purchase this investment property, I need a loan. So my limited belief was that you needed cash to purchase a property. No matter where you got that cash from, that's how you bought an investment property. So his son, I had been childhood friends with him, and I approached him. I was like, look at what your dad's doing. Like, you should be doing this, and talking to him. And then I found a duplex in an area where I actually grew up, and I was managing other properties in that area. And so I brought it to him and I said, look at this. And he's like, I'm in, I trust you, let's do it. So he put up all of the money to purchase the property, and we did a 50-50 split. And we also set it up so that he was actually the mortgage holder on the property. So instead of him just investing his capital into the property, it was set up on a repayment plan. So we amortized it over 15 years, and he was making 5.5% interest. So every month he would get 50% of the cash flow and then also a mortgage payment and making 5.5% on the money he invested into the deal.
Wow, I love how you guys created like multiple streams there. Can you tell us, like, I don't know if you remember, but what you purchased it for, what the mortgage was, how you guys rented it out?
Yeah, so at first we had put his cash in, and I believe it was around like $70,000 we paid for the property. And then we ended up selling it 5 years later for $110,000. So it worked out nicely with that kind of appreciation. But the monthly payment for him, I don't exactly remember because we've refinanced out of that and used his cash somewhere else. But I believe it's around like maybe $500 to $600 a month, I think the payment was. And so we rented, the bottom was already rented out. And then the upstairs, we did $5,000 of remodeling into it. And he was house hacking at the time, and he had somebody living with him, and he said, you know what, you don't have to pay me rent for the next 3 months if you actually do the remodel on this property. So that worked out great for me too, as we didn't have to pay anyone to do the labor in that remodel. And that was kind of another benefit he brought. So when we did that remodel, we were able to rent each unit for $600 each. So we were bringing in $1,200 from the property. And like, it sounds great with only the mortgage being, $500 to $600, but that didn't include insurance and property taxes. And the property taxes in New York State are really high. So after all of our expenses, I mean, we were only cash flowing about $150 per month on this property. But it was no money into the deal for me, and he was getting all of his money back plus the 5.5% too. So it was a good first deal. Definitely wasn't a home run at all. I actually, when I ran the numbers, I forgot to include snow plowing into my expenses, which, that does eat away. And we live in Buffalo. Like, obviously there's snow. So that was one mistake I made on the deal.
Yeah, I want to say I just love that you were able to creatively, like most people go to someone for the down payment, right? But you were actually able, and you saw that you were in a cheaper market, and you were able to actually find someone to just finance the whole thing. And they basically it's like a traditional mortgage on it almost, right? 15-year, 5.5%, maybe a little more expensive than a traditional one. But I think that's great. And so you were able to find this person just because you built a relationship with him through that property management company. Is that right?
Well, I was actually working for his dad, and we had been friends growing up. We lived right next door to each other. So I knew the family since I was 2. So I already had that relationship with them. And then when I had quit my accounting job, the dad had said, you know what, I need somebody to manage this property. And that's how I started working part-time doing that. And then I just seeing what he was doing. So I only worked for this one investor and was his property manager.
Okay. Gotcha. Love that. Z, you got anything?
Yeah. So how did you find it? Did you just find this on the MLS, or were you doing creative stuff to get these properties?
I found it on the MLS. It was the first and only property I looked at.
There you go.
So yeah. It was right in. It was like half a mile away from the apartment complexes I was managing. So I knew the area super well. I knew what I could rent it for. I knew about what kind of expenses to expect, except for snow plowing, obviously. But I felt really comfortable in the area. And I ran basic numbers and basically just writing out on a piece of paper, okay, here's what the income could be, and then writing out what my expenses and, what the mortgage payment would be to my partner. And like, okay, yeah, we'll have some money left over. Let's go and buy it.
So at this point, though, you were pretty privy to all the benefits that real estate offered you. Like, did you realize the property was going to appreciate, and did you realize the tax benefits and all that good stuff? Or were you like, oh, real estate, this kind of seems like a good idea, and kind of like blindly go into it?
Yeah, I did go to school for accounting and finance. And so I definitely understood the tax benefits of it. And that was definitely something that, not that I was making a ton of money at the time that needed any tax benefits, but I was hoping down the road that I would. And with the appreciation from watching this other investor pull all this equity out of other properties that he had held for a while, I definitely saw the value in that. So his main business was auto dealerships. And when I started working for him, he was actually acquiring a new auto dealership. And he let me kind of like tag along the whole process with him. And the day of closing, he had me sit at the attorney's office, and he had me actually writing out these huge checks to pay for this business. And he had me help him do the refinance on one of his apartment buildings so that he could get the cash. And then I saw how, he transferred the cash to the other entity and as a loan, and then how he was paying it out to purchase this property. And I think the fact that he let me go through this whole kind of journey with him as how he did this was really helpful. But the most beneficial thing was sitting at that closing table and writing out that check for that huge amount of money and I'm the one that's signing it and handing it off. Like that really showed me the power of real estate and like how it can get you into so many other things.
That feels like an exercise in like mindset. You know, you're like, here, I'm going to write this like, $100,000 check or like, $1 million check. So that seems really cool. I'm curious, are the next 5 really similar on how you found it and how you set it up? Like, should we jump ahead or do you want to do the very next one, Craig? Because I feel like she's got a lot of beans in the bag.
Ashley, we could sit here, we could talk to Ashley here all day, and we still wouldn't get all the information in her brain. But I guess Ashley. So the first duplex sounds. I love how you did it creatively. Mm-hmm. You didn't. Maybe you had money, but you didn't use any of your own money to do it, and you just leverage relationships and leverage your experience. How did you leverage that into then five other properties before you even heard about financial independence? Because clearly you knew you wanted to grow it.
Yeah,
for some reason. Yeah.
Yeah. So the next thing was that that we bought right down the street. So like 2 houses down, another property, another duplex went up for sale. So we're like, oh, we got to buy this one now. So he actually went and got a home equity loan on his house, my partner. And then we used that funds to purchase the second house. Then after that, we refinanced and did a portfolio loan on both of those properties to buy the third property. And then he went and got a line of credit on his house. We used that to buy the fourth property. And then we used the refinance money that we pulled out to buy the fifth property. So that was kind of how those deals worked. And then they were all MLS deals, nothing exciting off market. But then after that, we went and I called there was this commercial building for sale, and I called the number, and the guys just kind of asked me weird questions about it. And he's like, you know what? This property is actually owned by my dad, and he owns like 10 other properties in the area, and I think he needs to sell them all. Would you like to look at them? And that's how I found my first like portfolio that I actually purchased off market.
Wow. So let's rewind it back real quick just to the going from 1 to 5 with your partner. You basically just kept reusing money, right? Was that did you do value add stuff like forced appreciation, or were you just taking advantage of the market and what it was doing those years?
We were just doing basic cosmetic updating. Like that first unit, it was the $5,000. The biggest expense was putting in a Mitsubishi split unit for the AC and the heat in it. And then we did some, new flooring and a couple cabinets in it, but that was really it. So it was just cosmetic updating, but we were just purchasing so below market because there was not a ton of investors in that area. I mean, at this time it was only 2013, 2014, and we didn't have like a ton of competition. I mean, we were the only offers on all of our houses.
Oh, wow. Different times for sure, but maybe we're getting back into these times. I'm kind of noticing that the market is definitely softening and becoming a little easier for buyers these days. You mentioned that your partner brought the money for this one. And so it was that same kind of dynamic where he brings the money, you do the work for this whole 5, right? So you basically had 5 properties with $0 down?
Yep. For me, it was $0. Yeah. So I had no money into the deals, and then since we refinanced on them, he was able to get his money back. So it's not like he kept the amortization going for 15 years. We refinanced out, and now there's just a small loan payment from our LLC that's paid to him every month.
Okay. And at this point, you pay your investor back first before you start taking money out yourself. Is that how that works?
Yes. So then after that, we split the cash flow 50-50, but really we don't take any money out anyways. About 3 to 4 times a year, he goes to Vegas and asks how the bank account is doing and if he can have some money.
See if he can double it in 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's the only time he takes a draw.
Nice. When are you going to Vegas, or do you have one of those big fun expenditures?
No, the only time that I've really gone to Vegas is actually with him. So that, that's really the only time, but I haven't been in a long time, but that's his thing. Definitely is going to Vegas.
Fair enough. Okay. Z, do you have anything that you want to add or anything you want to say?
So, I mean, I'm assuming you still have them. Are you just holding on to these? What's the play for you?
So of those first units, we actually only
you
have...
sold that first one.
Yeah, we sold the first one. We kept the second one. We sold the third one. The fourth one we still have, and then we sold the fifth one. But then we have, after that, we bought a 6-unit together. We still have that. And then we haven't done any more deals since then. As of right now, he has invested in a house flip with me. And then he's also funding a short-term rental that I'm rehabbing right now too. So no more equity really in deals, because I look back at, like, he got a great deal, really. I mean, he got 50% of the cash flow. He got 5.5% on his money, and he doesn't have to do anything. So I'm not doing those kind of deals with him anymore. But and when I do deals now, I have 3 main partners. So I kind of look at, okay, who is this most suitable for? What can I bring to the table, and which one of my partners can bring what I need for this deal to the table?
So each one of those partners has a different thing they're good at, and you have another thing you're good at, and so you're always able to just put the pieces together. Is that right?
Yeah, and also, okay, do we need to bring any money? Who has money right now to even bring to the table for this deal? Like, that's a huge factor too. And then, if there is going to be time that needs to be put into the deal, who has the time to help with something? So yeah, those factors come into play. Or, who's not annoying me this week and bothering me. Then.
Yeah. And that's why you must have never asked me.
Yeah. My brother, my brother sent a text I saw pop up, and I know it's him asking for his K1 that I haven't sent him yet.
Oh.
So yeah, that's my fault though, because I got that last week and haven't sent it to him. But
yeah, disable notifications. Got it. Yeah. All right, Ashley, so we've got a pretty good understanding of how you got started. How did you kind of accelerate so fast? What was that inflection point for you of, okay, you're buying five properties in 3 or 4 years to now you're what was that inflection point for you?
Yeah, so it was really finding bigger pockets, because when I bought that portfolio of properties, I ended up buying, I think, 7 of them. And when I looked at it, if I hadn't found bigger pockets, I'd be like, geez, there's no way I can spend this much money on these properties. I don't know where I'll get it from. A bank, I don't think will give me a loan for this much. And I mean, the properties needed a lot of work to them. The rents were really low, and it wasn't appetizing to a bank. So finding bigger pockets, I realized whoa, I have this one rental property that me and my husband had. It was our old house that we used to live in. And so that property, we ended up turning it into a rental when we built our new house. And so we own that free and clear, and we ended up putting a line of credit onto that investment property. And that's how I funded half of the deal. And then I was able to negotiate seller financing for the other half of the deal. And it was, we did a 1-year term for 12 months seller financing at 7% interest only. And during that time, I'd raise the rents, fix it up a little bit, and then I went and refinanced with a bank. So definitely finding different ways to purchase deals has been a huge advantage to me, is that I don't have to put in my own money anymore, and I don't have to use partners for money specifically.
So, okay, I love how you're able to get creative there, right? I think, always asking the seller, hey, does seller financing work? Oftentimes the seller wants some lump sum of cash, right? Mm-hmm. So if you were able to take a couple $100,000 out from a HELOC or something like that, or those are always the numbers in my head because that's my market, but maybe in your cheaper market, it's $50,000 or whatever it is. Yeah. So you give them that big lump sum, but then they can finance the rest. So they're still getting monthly payments from that, and they still may like that. How did you have any plan B? As if what if in 1 year you couldn't, the market tanks, or you weren't able to refinance and actually get him his money back? What would have happened?
No idea. At that time was just this will work out. I know what I'm doing. And you know what? It actually came down to the day. The day the loan was due was the day that I closed on the loan. And so I overnighted the check to him. And the next day he called me. He's like, I didn't get it, and I haven't gotten it and stuff. So I actually called his local post office and talked to the postmaster. And I was like, I sent this, I had like a tracking number on it. And I was like, it says it was delivered. The person is saying, she's like, I'm going to drive out there right now to this property and I'm going to figure this out because yes, you're right. It does say delivered if he's not getting it. So the postmaster drove to his house. He lives in like some kind of community where you have the mailboxes out front, and he thought it was going to be delivered to his door. And he never went to actually check his mailbox, like where they have like everyone's house in that community, the mailboxes in the rows. And he never even checked his mailbox. But man, I've got to tell you, like, I don't think I've ever sweated so much or been so nervous in my whole life that day.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But
like, do you think he would have come after you? Was he mean?
I think, no, he wasn't mean, but I could tell he was like disappointed in me. And I feel like that hurts me more is someone being disappointed in me than someone being mean to me. And, but yeah, and actually it's a funny story. His son and I have become good friends kind of, and he's become my broker now for commercial deals. So that we've maintained kind of that family relationship, I guess.
I have to say I had a private lender that was a friend, and I remember one time for some reason the bank didn't send the check or it got lost in the mail, and it was so stressful because I don't use a lot of private money, but it's like I have the same thing is that I want people to be able to depend on me. My relationships are so important that him being disappointed that I like messed up somehow, even though it was just like a random bank error,
a fluke thing,
was really intense. So I see what you mean. I think that's so brave to be able to work with other people's money just for that reason alone.
Yeah, that's like one thing that I don't like is I don't like to be responsible to other people. And that's like one thing I really avoid because I think I'm in a good position to raise money, having the BiggerPockets platform and things like that. But I feel the same as just I don't want to be responsible to anyone. So I have to like overcome that fear eventually because I'm not going to be able to grow and scale anymore if I don't do that. But that's definitely something that's holding me back. So if I make an error or mistake, it hurts me. It doesn't hurt anybody else. So that's what has like, and like my 3 business partners that I do have, like I was friends with them for a long time. I've made them a lot of money. I've, built up their net worth. So like at this point in time, if there was a mistake that had happened, they're not going to care or they're not going to be disappointed in me. And they're like, it would be fine and we would move on. But for somebody who's giving me their money for their first time, if, a mistake or something were to happen, like I also like to have a lot of freedom and flexibility. So like if there comes something like, oh, okay, if I do this today, like I have to miss out on something with my kids. But if I do it tomorrow, it's going to cost another $1,000 or something, but I get to do that with my kids. I'm going to take that. I'm probably going to eat that cost because it's me paying it. But if it's other people investing in the deal, I would have to miss out on my kids and do that thing because I couldn't cost anybody else money because I delayed. And that kind of ruins that flexibility, that freedom for me. So that's still something I'm trying to figure out as to how much I want to involve other people into the deals that I'm doing because I think it does kind of give you those restraints. And
yeah, I think balance is key, right? And you can't let real estate run your life. You have to let your life run your real estate. And so, we're all doing this for financial independence. We're all doing this. Most people aren't doing this just to like get a really high net worth, right? That will be a byproduct for sure. But really it's spending more time with your kids. It's spending time with your husband. It's spending time on the farm if that's what you like to do, right? Like it's all that good stuff. Okay, Ashley, so one thing I kind of love about you and this whole story here is that you made this sound really, really easy. And I feel like anyone at this point is like, I'm going to go out and make relationships and go use other people's money. What are some of the kind of like the hard things that happened? Like what are some of the like mistakes that you may have made kind of in those early days that, and how did you navigate those?
So becoming a property manager was actually really hard for me. I did not like dealing with tenants complaining about other tenants or tenants complaining about anything. I just couldn't handle that. And like that was super stressful for me. And I actually was having a conversation with the investor I worked for a couple of months ago about this, where an issue came up with one of his properties and I just took care of it for him. And I still do some work for him. And I was like, wow, isn't it amazing? Like how much I've changed from when I first started working with you, like I would feel like attacked personally if someone complained about something at the apartment complex, and it would just tear me down and I would get into defense mode. And now I've had to learn over the years just like how to handle that. So I've definitely learned and I've grown a lot personally. But in the beginning, like that was a huge struggle for me. And like if someone, needed maintenance, it's like it needs to happen right away. But like, no, it really doesn't. Like even if that was their own home, they're not getting a contractor out there at 6 a.m. on a Saturday to fix, something that they can still use everything. It's not like a huge deal. So I really had to learn how to not take things personally, but I made a lot of mistakes. I definitely wasn't great at tenant communication at all. And then just like analyzing the deals, I made the mistake with the snow plowing. I definitely didn't know a ton about rehab or construction. So when I bought my 4-unit, it was 2 commercial units in the bottom and 2 residential upstairs. I got a great deal on the property, but like we went way over budget on rehab, and it still ended up being a great deal. But it was like, that was my first time doing a huge full-blown gut rehab. So I think like the biggest struggles for me were the property management and like handling the tenants. Maybe if I had somebody else that was like the front person and I was kind of more behind the scenes and I wasn't actually interactive with the tenants, because now I have a property management company that I outsource everything to. And then just like managing the rehab and staying on timelines, that's always been like a huge struggle for me and hard. But if you are trying to get started, like especially now since the market is changing, is going after those properties that don't need a ton of work, that you're buying them under value. So when the first property that I bought with my second partner, he had a couple properties on his own. We bought the property for $35,000. I think it was $35,000 or $39,000. And we put in a new fridge. The fridge cost $800. We put that in. We did nothing else to the property. And once we closed on it, we immediately started the refinance process. So 2 weeks later, after we closed on it, an appraiser came out and it appraised for $55,000. So that $800 fridge got me, over $20,000.
What kind of fridge was that, actually? Yeah.
And so like that's how I started out, was buying under market, just submitting low offers. But I was also in very rural areas where there wasn't a ton of competition. So I think being in that kind of niche really helped me too.
I love how you take advantage of your situation at hand, right? Like, yeah, you're in a cheaper area and you're in a rural area. Usually those kind of go hand in hand. And right, so you're able to find someone that can easily finance your deals, as well as find under market deals with less competition. And again, like you're not seeing the thousands of dollars of cash flow per property that we might see in Denver or some of these other property, or even the hundreds of thousands of dollars of appreciation, but you can stack these units up, right? And so you're kind of doing the low volume approach. I want to talk a little bit about like opportunities, right? Because I know you like when an opportunity presents itself, right? You need to be ready to take that opportunity. And so, there's things like the BiggerPockets rookie podcast. There's things like a bunch of other stuff that you've done, right? Like obviously, like not everybody can just be like, oh, hey, I want to be the show of the co-host of the BiggerPockets new show. So how do you take advantage of these opportunities when they present themselves, and how do you prepare yourself for those?
So honestly, I struggle with this so much because I feel like I do have a lot of opportunities presented to me because of the BiggerPockets podcast and just like people I network with. And it's like, wow, should I be doing more? Should I be doing something different because of these different opportunities? But I have to sometimes realign myself and say like, okay, but what do I really want? Just because the opportunity is there doesn't mean that it's a good fit for you or that it's going to end up being an opportunity. It might actually be more of a burden for you. So I just kind of look at them and figure out like, is this something that I actually want to do? Or am I just thinking that I should do it because the opportunity is there? And that has been a struggle for me, but staying like aligned with how I want my life to look like and just finding those opportunities that align with that.
Yeah. So if you didn't already know, I am sitting in Seattle as we record this show. And because of that, the FI team is now going to Seattle. So if you are an investor looking for an investor-friendly realtor to help you with your house hack or your investment property, definitely hit us up. Go to thefiteam.com/Seattle, fill out the form, and we'll get in touch with you as soon as possible. Now let's get back to the show.
All right. So where do we go from here? What happens next in your world? You just keep building, and what are you kind of like wanting out of it? I'm like really excited to hear your why, because this is something I have to kind of reorganize all the time. I'm not necessarily someone who wants 1,000 doors. That's just not really in my makeup. And so when you see everybody else around you and they're counting their worth based on the number of doors they have, it's easy to get lost in that.
Yeah, and that means nothing. I mean, you could have 1,000 doors and not be cash flowing anything. You could have 1,000 doors and cash flowing $1,000 each door, but you also invested $10 million into those properties, so of your own money. So that's not a great comparison for apples to apples. And I finally realized that too, because I used to have in my Instagram bio how many doors I had, and I thought that was something as to how to measure how well you knew real estate. And now, honestly, when people ask me that, I have to like count on my fingers, like how many units I have. Like even right now, I could not give you the exact number, because it's just not it's not worth putting that number into my brain anymore, just like pushing it out. So I think next for me is, well, right now with my current partner, Daryl, we've been working on purchasing land with cabins. So we're in the middle of renovating those, and we're going to do them as short-term rentals. And we're focusing on areas that are not too far from the city of Buffalo, so easy to get to for families that live in the Buffalo. And we like these to be places where families come just to get out of the city for a little bit. Then we're also purchasing properties with either land for hunting, or there is state land nearby that allows hunting, and then also hiking and things like that. So that's what we're currently working on. And then we're trying to pursue a campground right now too. And that's kind of been our main focus, is getting a campground.
Okay. I feel like you're kind of like hopping, like you're doing a lot of different things. I know you've got like a liquor store you did at one point.
Yeah.
Right. You've got your duplexes and triplexes. You've got this land. You got short-term rentals. I hear all the time, stay to your lane, stay to your lane, stay to your lane. Right. And so it doesn't sound like you're staying in a lane. Like why are you doing it this way? Right. Or how did you know?
So I 100%, like, especially as a rookie starting out, we always say this too, is like, pick one path and go on it. Build your foundation. So my long-term buy and holds, they are my foundation. Like that is the majority of my portfolio. But I also think it's great to diversify. So buying a duplex in my area and the markets I invest in, I can do that in my sleep. Like that is nothing for me. And it gets boring, actually, and it gets mundane. So I'm still doing that to keep that solid foundation. But now that I have like that almost, not, I wouldn't say perfected, but I've become very experienced in that and can do it pretty easily. I'm now shifting and pivoting into like, okay, what's next for me? Because I want to have that diversification in my portfolio as a whole. So the campground will actually be run just like our short-term rentals are. So the one we're pursuing right now has 28 cabins on it. The cabins will have key code locks on them. There won't be like somebody to check you in. Like if you pull up to an RV resort now and you get your key and you go to your cabin, it will be like you'll get your message with just like, Airbnb operates. You'll get your key code the day of, you'll go to the cabin, he'll do the key code to get in. And then, you're on your own for the rest of the thing. You'll have what you need there. Then you check yourself out. So really like cutting down on having employees and having staff. So we would need groundskeeper and then a cleaner to come in. And then there's also a store on the property too, where we could have somebody operate the store every once in a while. But, so that's how the cabins kind of tie into a campground, is we would run them very similar as short-term rentals. But so that's just me pivoting because I want to diversify and I don't want to have the same portfolio in case, something does happen with long-term buy and hold rentals where no longer they're not worth any value. But I think they are a pretty safe investment. So just diversifying and staying on my second path, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think that's super important too. Is to have one, the foundation, right? That's the most important thing. But two, like you got to stay interested. Otherwise, you're going to get bored and you're going to burn out. And so, like, what is keeping that fire going? And it sounds like you love just all types of real estate. And so, learning and figuring out. And I'm sure you're going to make mistake after mistake after mistake. You're probably way more efficient if you wanted to just buy all the duplexes in Buffalo, right?
Yeah,
but,
and
you
I
probably
think
make more
too,
money. But it's not about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I spent like a year figuring out like campgrounds that I wanted to go after next. Like I knew it was time to pivot and change things up because I was getting bored and it wasn't exciting or passionate for me anymore. And so I spent a year. I like, should I do self-storage? Should I do mobile home parks? You know, everything that my friends are doing. I like attended a conference on it to see if it was for me. And then I kind of had my epiphany talking to some friends, and they're like, campgrounds is what gets you excited. You actually know a lot about them already. And so that's when I decided. So it wasn't just like I woke up one day and said, you know what, this is what I want to do. Like I took a full year to like figure out this is how I'm going to pivot.
Sharpening the axe. That's so important.
Yeah.
I want to also highlight that diversification happens in a lot of different ways. So it's cool that you're doing it with different strategies. Like you're doing full different types of real estate, but people can do diversification through doing short, medium, and long term. They can do diversification by buying in, multiple states. I own in 4 states. And so there are all kinds of ways to look at it because it sounds like the bulk of your portfolio is in New York, if not all of it. And so that's kind of the way that you're making it a little diversified. So it's just interesting to see how different people slice it so that we're safer in these markets. Yeah.
All right, Ashley. So would you mind at this point in time, right? So we kind of got your story from duplex property manager to finding bigger pockets to using partners to scaling to now having campgrounds and liquor stores and all that good stuff. What does your portfolio look like today from like, you don't need to tell us the units, but just like what types of properties do you have? And if you have a ballpark of like what your passive income is, if you don't mind sharing that.
Yeah, so I have about 30 units that are either duplexes, single family, and then I have and a couple triplexes, and then I have a 4-unit building which has my liquor store in it, and that's my commercial building. And then I have last year we acquired a farm that has 3 rental units, and then we're using the farmland to extend our current farm and using it for crops and stuff like that. So that's kind of been a unique experience. And we actually did that deal subject to based off of that. As far as my passive income a month, like it changes so rapidly. Like I couldn't even give you like a number because like for this month example, I got a text yesterday that my one water bill for a property was 3 times the amount that it usually is. And it ended up that there was a small gasket that was loose by the water meter and it had been leaking out for 3 months straight. And the tenant just, never noticed, and the meter's down in the basement, things like that. So I honestly have no idea. I've never taken any money out of from my investments. It paid off all of my debt. And then I took some money to take my kids on vacation and buy a couple things. But other than that, it just all gets reinvested into doing rehabs now. And I fund almost all of my rehabs with it. So I never even take any passive money out of it.
You're just building.
I cycle through it.
Yeah. And so where does your money come from then?
The podcast. So yeah, I mean, I live very well below my means. The farm income, I've pretty much always lived on the farm income. We never used any of the money that I have used to actually live off of. So that was like a great thing of paying off debt, is that we live off of just that income. So my income has always been to invest in stuff, reinvest. So even index funds too, but mostly real estate.
What are the crops that you're selling?
So we don't really sell crops. We take the crops and we use them to make feed for our cows. So we have dairy cows, but we do sell hay every once in a while, but that's really the only, and then sometimes like silage, things like that we'll sell if we have an extra amount. But yeah, the crops are mostly to feed the cows.
Gotcha.
Well,
okay, cool.
Craig has cows now, so maybe you should get the download, after the show. Figure out how to maximize the dairy cow.
We just got our
honestly,
first.
I have no idea about anything. I don't know anything about it.
We have to talk to your husband about how we get the most milk out of our cow.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll bring him on the next episode. It's
Yeah,
gonna be farm
like,
hacking. Yeah.
It's actually like a science. Like he has like a nutritionist for the cows and everything like that. Like it's very involved.
Gosh.
And like he gets when they sell their milk to the milk company, they like test it and stuff. And he like the better the quality of the milk is, he gets like bonuses on top of his pay and everything like that. So
oh my gosh,
he's very like, so he's very into, how well they're producing, because it does affect how much the milk company will pay for the milk too.
There's a whole level that I had no idea about. Do you know what type of music those cows like to listen to by any chance? Yeah.
Well, it must be country music because that's all he plays in the barn. So.
All right, there it is. Good, we're doing something right.
Yeah.
Okay, before we pivot, I want to just hear, like, what is it all for if all you do is save that money there? I mean, are you just saving for retirement, or like, what's the point if you're not spending it? And if you live so frugally?
So I'm really not living frugally. I just don't have any expenses, I guess. But I don't think that, like, for me, at first it was about like having money. That was, and then I realized for myself that wasn't really a motivator to me at all. So it really was what money could do for me as to like the time freedom. So like being able to drop my kids to school every week, not having to work a W-2 and all these different things. So really it's just like the peace of mind and not having to worry. Like that is a huge thing for me, is being able to sleep at night. I mean, I have to say, like, my income from BiggerPockets is a decent amount. Like I've done boot camps for them. I've done YouTube videos. Like it's not like, I'm living off 20 grand of expendable income here, but it's always, the farm has always made enough money to kind of support how we wanted to live, especially after we paid off debt. When we had that debt though, like it was really hard. We thought we were normal. Like we lived month to month based on our expenses. I wasn't making a ton as a property manager. And so I think the fact that, we haven't really upgraded anything. We live in a 2,100 square foot ranch house that we built. Like it's nothing super amazing. We've had our cars paid off, and I actually just purchased like the nicest car I've ever bought. And so like there's finally an expense that I have that I'm responsible for paying for. But like my husband's car is paid off, all of our farm equipment paid off. So I just want to have a secure future, so that maybe one day I do want to sell my portfolio, or I do want to go and refinance and take that money and buy a huge house. I don't know. But for me, it's just like looking at like the assets and the equity and be like, okay, worst case scenario, I can pull money out of all of these things and I have security, I guess.
So did you buy that Tesla?
No, I got a Jeep Wagoneer.
Oh, okay. I don't even know what that is. Is that fancy?
It was the most expensive car I ever bought, but
damn. We'll pretend that Ashley's now living high on the hog.
I'm living the bougie life now. My
bougie
Jeep.
life, yeah, with your Jeep and your Chanel purses and all that stuff.
That's another thing. Like I don't even own a purse. When my business partner comes with me on trips, I like make him put my stuff in his pocket because I don't. I have a Carhartt backpack that I carry around.
Yeah. True farmer. Awesome. All right, Ashley, well, we're going to head into the final part of our show. But before we do you have any parting words of wisdom for all the listeners?
Yeah, I think if you are a rookie investor, one way that I got started was because I worked for this other investor and I got a lot of resources out of that. So I was connected with a lot of people in his net worth. So if you have some time or you're looking for a new job, try to get one that's in the real estate industry. So maybe it's even being a leasing agent on Sundays or something, and you get connected to how showings work, what a lease agreement looks like, things like that. And also building that net worth and that network and those connections. So like he did all of his refinances with this one loan officer in the bank, and they would, have me send all the forms and everything. And I was like super on top of it. Like I would send things immediately and they would be so thankful and stuff. So when it came time for me to start doing loans and refinancing, like I had no problem working with this bank because they had already built this relationship with me, even though I wasn't the lender on the deal. So I think finding ways to grow your network before you're even investing can be a huge advantage.
Love that.
That's
grow your
great
network,
advice.
and then your net worth will grow after that.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, Z, you ready to get into
The final four.
Ashley, what are you reading right now?
I am reading. I actually got it right here. The Hidden Habits of Genius. So I just started it actually on the plane ride here, but it just like talks about how like genius isn't somebody because they got, an A+ and everything in school, that like a lot of geniuses actually don't do well in school because of how you're tested and things like that. And, schools really aren't built for entrepreneurs. They're built for making people to be employees to work a 9-to-5, or even if they do build them to make entrepreneurs, it's that you're constantly working and not about being an investor or things like that, and even how to manage money. And so I've been wanting to learn a lot about, do I decide to actually homeschool my kids and like hire somebody to teach them how I want them to be taught? So that's kind of what drew me to that book.
I don't know if you've gone down that rabbit hole at all, but there is a very deep rabbit hole of like the school system and how that's all put on and all that good stuff. So maybe we'll have to talk offline about that.
I'm starting to take my way down that rabbit hole for sure.
Okay, yeah, you and Grace will have to talk at some point.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, second question, Ashley. What is the best piece of advice you ever had?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I would have to say more, I don't know about ever had, but I would say more recently it was about like not overthinking things, as to like don't let your mind like go too much. And I used to like do that all the time. Like something would happen and I would just like overthink the whole scenario. And I have to like reground myself to like look at the facts and don't assume things you don't know. So I think that applies to like a lot of aspects of life, but in business in general, like, okay, I got an email today that a deal might fall through. Like that doesn't mean freak out, overthink all of these things that are going to happen because of that domino effect. Like focus on what you can do now to be proactive instead of reactive after it does fall through. So I think just someone like, I mean, that might seem pretty obvious to a lot of people, but recently I had that conversation with somebody and they kind of talked me through that, and that was really beneficial to me.
No, I think that's really important because that's how real estate works, right? You can never foresee the problems that you're going to get into, but there will be problems probably on every deal, and you just have to get to the problem so then you can fix it, basically is how I see it. Yeah. All right, Z.
Question number 3. This is what I've been waiting for all day. What is your why?
It is to be spontaneous. So I think that saying your family or your kids is like too easy of an answer and isn't motivating enough and a driving factor, because obviously you should already be doing anything and everything for your kids. And so I think that's kind of a cop-out when people say that. I think you should dive deeper. And mine is to create a spontaneous life for my kids. And so that doesn't mean like, oh, guess what? Today we're going to Disney World. Let's jump on a plane. Like we can do this. It's even me waking up in the morning and being like, you know what? I want to learn about an insurance company and open an insurance company, and I can spend a week, learning about opening that kind of business or something like that. So having that flexibility, that time freedom to be spontaneous is what drives me. And even during this conference, I brought my 6-year-old son with me. So, we booked his flight, we got him here, everything. And then while we were here, it was like, hey, you want to actually go up on stage with us and you can do the giveaways and everything. And just like, yeah, he loved it. So now he didn't even want to come with me to record the podcast. He wanted to stay with the other MC and go on stage and take my spot and be up there. And I think the fact that, you know, he gets to be out of school to do that. I mean, when we were doing our run of show meeting, he was taking notes and everything. Like, this is the kind of spontaneity that not a lot of kids get to have. So I feel fortunate that he gets to be a part of this and kind of have some fun too.
I think that's really cool. You know, where we're at right now in Northern Idaho, homeschooling is extremely popular, probably more popular than even the public school system. And so we've got a lot of friends that have kids who are homeschooled, and everyone says like it's amazing because the kid is at home when like the plumber comes over to fix something, and they can see that interaction. They know how to be that everyday person. Or like dad comes home and says, hey, we're going out to do this X, Y, and Z, and you're coming with me because you need to learn this thing. And I think the school system is just so structured. It is not how life is supposed to be. And I love that you're kind of doing that and you know, kind of testing it out right now with your son here in Coeur d'Alene. So
yeah, even my 8-year-old, he loves the farm. Like, that's his thing. Like, if I said, you want to go to Disney World with me tomorrow, I'd be like, no, or like, we got to chop corn or something like that. Like, he loves it so much. And so he will ask to skip school. Like, he skipped school on Monday because they were pulling a motor out of a tractor, and he had been learning how they do this, how to take it apart. And so we're like, yes, you can skip school to do that, because like that's something he can't learn in school. It's not like he wants to sleep in or stay home and play video games or watch TV. Like, I can't even tell you the last time he watched a movie, but because like that is something very interesting to learn. He's 8 years old and he knows how to pull a motor out of a tractor. So
super cool.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, this is the question that I've been waiting to ask you all day. What is your favorite type of cheese?
I really don't like cheese that much, so I'll just say just mozzarella cheese, shredded mozzarella cheese, because you can put it on anything.
The cheese stuff from the bag at the grocery store.
Cows and you don't like cheese? I just don't understand.
Not really. You know what? I would say there's like a cheese curd, like a buffalo chicken wing cheese curd, I guess would be like the most fancy.
The word curd just like turns me off. I'm like, all of a sudden that sounds not good.
It is an ugly word, yeah. Well, if you're ever in Buffalo, make sure you try in the buffalo cheese curds. Awesome, Ashley. And where can people find out more about you?
You can find me on Instagram at Wealth from Rentals, and you can also subscribe to the Real Estate Rookie podcast on your favorite podcast platform. And we also have a YouTube channel, Real Estate Rookie.
Mm-hmm. Definitely go follow Ashley on Instagram and listen to BP Rookie if you haven't already. You probably already are. Either way, Ashley, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy conference schedule to come, even though I totally ditched you the first time that you invited me on your show. I appreciate you not getting me back. And next time you're in town, make sure you just let me know. Let me know when you're leaving, though.
This time next year. So put it in your calendar now, whenever this conference is again.
Yeah, we'll book it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. See you, Ashley. Thanks so much, and enjoy the show.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
And that was Ashley Kehr. I almost said Kehr. Is it Kehr or Kehr? Man,
I think it's Kehr, but it's just funny that you really like. You stumbled on that one, buddy.
The H caught me. I didn't know if I was supposed to be like Stewie in Family Guy and be like, Kehr, you know? Anyway, what did you think of Ashley and not my pronunciation of Ashley?
Well, you know, it's interesting because I've known of Ashley and I've seen her at conferences, but I just haven't interacted with her much. And so it was inspiring to hear her story. I love how down to earth she is. Like, she is just really approachable. She can really break things down in a simple way. And it just kind of feels like one foot in front of the other. And then I also just love her creativity of being like, hey, you know, I feel like I've learned this thing. How about I try something else? What would it be like to own a liquor store? Which we didn't really go into, but I mean, that seems like a total departure, right? So just really cool that she's trying to expand and try new things and stretch her reality.
Yeah, and I think the foundation of this whole thing is she spends so little. And so because that she spends so little, it really gives her the freedom to travel, to try these new adventures, to keep satisfying that like boring bug, if you will, right? They're to keep killing that boring bug. And so she's engaged, she's exciting, she's always in a good mood. I don't think I've ever seen Ashley like upset. And I think it's because she's just always stimulated with her real estate investing and with her family and all the stuff that she's doing. So I think a super inspiring episode. And really, she had almost nothing to start, right? She didn't have any money. All she had was relationships. And relationships, for the most part, are free. Maybe you buy a coffee every once in a while. So, one takeaway I would say is, go on BiggerPockets and reach out to 3 to 5 people in your area and just go set up coffee dates with them, right? In the next 2 weeks, you should be on 5 coffee dates and see where that takes you. I guarantee you'll be motivated and you'll have some connection that you didn't have before, and you'll see yourself really graduating into your real estate investing.
I love it. And for our final ask of the day, I'm going to ask you guys, if you're out there wanting to learn more about house hacking or different types of real estate investing, buy our books. So if you don't know, Craig wrote The House Hacking Strategy, and my book should be out now by the time this airs. And so my book is 30 Day Stay, The Investor's Guide to Mastering the Medium-Term Rental. So if you go into the BiggerPockets bookstore, you can get both of our books. If you already own them, buy them for a friend. Who knows? Christmas is around the corner, right? So get the word out there so that we can change the world by making everyone financially independent.
Let's do it.
All right, guys. Well, we'll see you next week. And I'm not going to let Craig ask for a rating or review this week, but we'll be back for that.
Chomping at the bit.
You are. All right, guys. Bye.
That's it for this episode of Investify. We hope that these nuggets of real estate wisdom lead to more savvy financial planning and a clearer path towards financial freedom. For more content like this, subscribe to the show at investify.com. Don't forget to leave a rating and share it with your friends. Together, we can transform more real estate newbies into successful and clever investors. Thank you so much for listening. See you on the next one.